The story begins by showing Ichikawa and Iharu who are doing physical training. Iharu, who sees Ichikawa looking ordinary, then asks if he is not worried about Kafka. After all, how could Ichikawa accept the order to transfer teams when Kafka is in danger? Even though, according to Iharu, Ichikawa can also become stronger in his current team, Ichikawa will still accept the order so that he can increase his strength as soon as possible, so that he does not need to be protected by others, and so that he can protect Kafka. Ichikawa said he believed in Kafka, and until then Ichikawa didn't want to regret it anymore because he was weak. While in the meantime, Iharu resumed his training because he also didn't want to lose to Ichikawa. A moment later, their seniors also appeared there to inform them that today their superiors would decide on the punishment for Kafka. Those who were also feeling uneasy waiting for the decision then suggested writing a joint request letter, even from the information they knew at this time. Captain Mina Ashiro had also been summoned to the headquarters, and they were very sure that the reason Mina was summoned there must be because there was good news. The scene then moves to the headquarters. Here we see Mina, who comes to report according to the orders given to her, while in a different room at the headquarters, Kaiju number 8, who has now taken over Kafka's body, is seen running berserk and begins to launch his attacks on Isao Shinomiya. Seeing this, Kokoro immediately shouted to make Kafka realize that he was human, but unfortunately Kaiju number 8 did not care about Kokoro and continued to attack Isao. With that form, Kaiju number 8 performs a suicide attack that relies on regeneration abilities. So if you think from a human point of view, Isao will definitely be harmed. Kaiju number 8 then returned to attack Isao with multiple blows, even though Kafka had tried to stop the attack from the inside. Unfortunately, Kaiju number 8 was still raging to finish Isao. Fortunately, Isao could still survive because of the power of Kaiju number 2's shield that he used, and immediately launched his counterattack using a sonic explosion on Kaiju number 8. It is an attack move that Kaiju number 2 often uses, but who would have thought? Since at that time Kaiju number 8 also deliberately used his body as bait to regenerate from the core of his strength, Kaiju number 8 also immediately launched a surprise attack on Isao until there was a huge impact of power, even to the point of destroying the second layer that protected the place. Two Kaiju identified as Kaiju number 2 and Kaiju number 8 are fighting across time here. Kokoro was impressed to see his father, who is able to fight evenly against Kaiju number 8. But what makes the situation so strange is that if Isao really planned to kill Kaiju number 8, Isao should have been able to do it in the first attack when Kafka was still in human form. But in reality, it looks like Isao deliberately put pressure on Kaiju number 8 to test his strength. Knowing that, suddenly Kokoro was reminded of his conversation with his father earlier, so Kokoro also assumed that his father wanted to give Kafka a chance to live. The scene then moves to the place of Aoi Kaguraji and Haruchi Izumo. Kaguraji said the reason he joined the defense force was to save people, but in fact he was saved by Kafka, even though Haruchi said Kafka was a kaiju. According to Kaguraji, the criteria for judging others is not from the background or words of people, but must be judged based on the actions of the person. The scene focuses back on the battlefield, as Isao continues to launch his sonic blast punches at Kaiju number 8, but unfortunately Kaiju number 8 also immediately hits Isao, injuring his body. So far the strength of Kaiju number 8 has begun to exceed Isao's estimates. His form has begun to get bigger and also become stronger. Even though Kafka in his consciousness also knows this situation is very serious if he doesn't stop it immediately. Unfortunately, Kafka still can't do anything until Kaiju number 8 continues to rage as he pleases and continues to corner Isao. Isao then tries to attack Kaiju number 8 with the power of Kaiju number 2 once again, but easily Kaiju number 8 also immediately replies to Isao to make him thrown, and his body is also immediately grabbed by Kaiju number 8. Kafka, who panicked, then turned to Kokoro. As much as possible, Kafka tried to release his shackles so that Isao would not die in front of Kokoro. But even though at that time Kokoro herself also really wanted to kill Kaiju number 8 because of his current actions, with his greatness of heart, Kokoro still wanted to believe in Kafka and shouted at Kafka not to lose to the Kaiju, but suddenly Kafka's body was eaten by the Kaiju, who controlled him. Seeing Isao, who had resigned himself to be killed by Kaiju number 8, Isao said, even though he had a little hope that Kafka could prove himself, but it seems that Isao's hopes only ended here, because at this time Kafka's consciousness had really sunk much deeper. Fortunately, because at that time, Mina's shadow came to save Kafka while saying that she would always wait for Kafka. In the end, Kafka was able to get the strength to control his body again and immediately attacked his own body. Seeing that incident, suddenly Isao was very surprised that Kafka could indeed control Kaiju number 8, but after Kafka managed to prove it to Isao, Kafka fainted and returned to his human form again. A moment later, other defense members appeared at that place to kill Kafka, who was already helpless. Isao told them to get rid of his weapon, and he was the captain of the 1st Division Defense Force named Naromi-Gen. Isao ordered the medical team to immediately take Kafka because there was a possibility that his core was injured. Then Naromi asked how Isao handled Kafka next, but Isao was silent until the scene changed to the meeting room where Mina Asiro was. Since at this time, Isao, the president-director, had completed his examination of Kaiju number 8. Now it was Mina's turn to be questioned what was her assessment of Kafka, who had Kaiju powers. Based on the investigation, it has been discovered that Mina and Kafka have known each other for a long time, but although Mina did not deny it, Mina replied that she never made concessions to Kafka because of this. Kiji explained that Kafka should not have passed after seeing his poor test results, but Kafka was still accepted as a cadet on the recommendation of Vice Captain Hashina. On the other hand, Nachizaka also wanted to emphasize to Mina that the reason they were hearing Mina's report at this time was only for procedural needs. That meant Mina's words still wouldn't affect their decision on Kaiju number 8. Then Mina replied, Kafka Hibino's problem, actually humans or Kaiju, can only be judged by experts, so she here will only describe Kafka's performance as an officer. Mina explained that during the Saga Mihara neutralization operation, Defense Force member Kafka Hibino managed to find the Yoju proliferation organ and contributed to the team. In addition, she also has integrity because she has repeatedly helped her teammates when in danger, especially when fighting against Kaiju number 10. He managed to destroy the Yoju bomb so that the 3rd Division was not destroyed. Even so, the higher-ups still don't care about what Kafka has done before, because after all, for them it is all the result of using Kaiju power and not purely from Kafka's own abilities. Moreover, if Kafka shows such performance as a new team, of course this even strengthens their presumption that Kafka is Kaiju. Hearing that, Mina once again revealed her superior's words to make them surprised. Then Mina again explained, when Kafka just entered the team, his released combat power was only 0%, and during the entrance test he was also only accepted as a cadet. But even though in the previous test Kafka had failed 12 times and was the oldest member among the new officers, Kafka never gave up, no matter how many times he failed. Or even though his released combat power was only 0%, and even though he turned into a kaiju, in fact Kafka never stopped to save people. Mina said, the Kafka Hibino she knows is a person who never gives up, is willing to sacrifice, and is more humane than anyone else. So if there is a question of what criteria to judge Kafka Hibino as a reliable officer, then Mina is very sure that it must lie in his heart. Hearing that, Mina was immediately criticized by her superiors that they did not want to hear Mina's thoughts. After all, according to them, how could they believe in the concept of heart conveyed by Mina? While after Mina was excused from there, the officials then continued their meeting again, discussing punishment for Kafka. On the other hand, we can also see Kafka, who is being treated in the capsule. Kafka, who remembers his memories with Mina, then mutters that he really hates himself, who is helpless at that time. He will not forgive Kaiju, who made Mina cry. So instead of letting his soul and body turn into Kaiju, it is better for him to die as a human. Not later, Kafka is seen who has recovered from his recovery. He was surprised to see Isao sitting next to him, but Isao told him not to be nervous because he did not plan to hurt Kafka. Kafka said he was very grateful that Isao was still alive, because if something happened to Isao, then Kafka would not be able to meet Kokoro. Isao's arrival here was to inform Kafka of the decision of the higher-ups. Isao said that if what was in Kafka's chest was a weak human heart, Kafka would have died. The fact is that Kafka is a kaiju, but whether he is an enemy or not, the decision on that is still pending. At the moment, almost everyone is against letting Kafka live. Especially when Isao said that they should not make Kaiju number 8 into a weapon, but rather to become a fighting force that fights alongside them. Of course, there were many who opposed the decision because it was too dangerous. But after Isao judged that Kafka could control the power of Kaiju and had also carried out missions for several months with the 3rd Division. According to Isao, even if Kaiju number 8 is made into a weapon, it cannot guarantee that its power will be the same. Plus, now that Daikaiju are also constantly appearing, so according to Isao, they must really utilize their combat power effectively. Isao said their country's current defenses are nothing compared to that creature. After all, they also must not forget the mass disaster 10 years ago centered on Kaiju number 6. At that time, there were more than 200 officers and 3 captains who died while carrying out missions, including Isao's own wife. Isao is worried that if Kaiju continue to appear far beyond expectations, then their country will be destroyed easily. So if they can take advantage of the extraordinary power of Kaiju number 8, Isao was very confident that Kafka could be their hope. Scene returned to Kafka's current place. Isao said that if Kafka wanted to live, then prove that he was useful. Kafka, who heard it, was certainly annoyed because they wanted him to live as a weapon, but no matter what. The fact is that until today, Kafka has considered himself a member of the defense forces. So he will still make them recognize him as a member of the defense forces. The scene shows Mina, who is walking alone. Mina looks at the message on her cell phone and looks smiling, while at the same time the Kokoro and the others also got a message forwarded from Mina. It turned out that the message was an announcement that Kafka Hibino would not be punished for a while, so it made everyone very happy. But even so, the fact is that they are very aware that now is not the time to be happy, because they have to become stronger in order to stop the critical moment if Kafka cannot control his kaiju form anymore.